Hello and welcome back to the Final Whistle. I'm Drew Ziegler and I'm joined by James Gougosis. This week's episode is all about MLB. We'll go over the hottest and coldest teams in the league, as well as the top awards candidates for the season so far. So first off, we're going to start off with the hot teams, 2 in the NL, 2 in the AL. Some teams expected, some not. And for the NL, both of the teams picked, the Phillies and the Braves, starting in the Phillies, both in the NL East. Phillies right now, as we're recording this on Wednesday, May 15th. The Phillies are 30-13, coming off 2 wins against the Mets, going back to Philly. Second in the league in team OPS with a 755. I mean, they've just been hitting great. Alec Boehm has been a huge bright spot for them, hitting 926 OPS and 35 RBIs already.
Yeah, I think we expected the Phillies offense to be very good, but Alec Boehm is just blowing everybody's expectations, really picking up the slack for the other struggling Phillies hitters, and the pitching has been unbelievable. We haven't seen good pitching out of Philly in what feels like forever. I mean, Ranger Suarez right now is a Cy Young candidate. Aaron Nola just threw a complete game shutout against the Mets. I mean, this pitching is just unbelievable. That's why they're first team to 30 wins, best team in the MLB, and I think this is definitely attainable for the rest of the season. I think Harper and Schwarber will really start to wake up. Boehm's obviously not going to have a 900 OPS by the end of the season, but I definitely think they can carry this through the entire summer and into the fall.
Yeah, and you didn't even mention their top pitcher, maybe not statistically this year, but Zach Wheeler, who's been a Cy Young candidate the past few years, and he's just been a stud for the Phillies ever since going there. Had his worst outing in his last outing against the Marlins, I think it was, but he's been great other than that one game. And now to the other NL East team, the Braves. Not as high statistically, but still 26-13, 6th in team average and 5th in the league in team ERA. And the huge bright spot for them was nobody saw it coming. Marcelo Ozuna, 2nd in the league with a 1,038 OPS.
Yeah, I mean, he had a huge year last year, and he's even better this year. And he's really picking up the slack, again, for like Acuna, who hasn't been very good this year, or Matt Olson, who's been struggling. But, those guys are definitely going to pick it up. And, with them being so good, even without Spencer Strider, who's out for the year, their pitching is definitely, hit the slack, even though they can't replace Spencer Strider, who's one of the best pitchers in the league. But, they're doing really good right now.
Yeah, Matt Olson has been struggling immensely. Got to think he's going to pick it up, just the talent he has. But just another huge bright spot for them has been Ronaldo Lopez, starting pitcher, under a 2 ERA, about a 1 whip. People didn't even think he'd be in the league or a starter for this team, and he has been their best pitcher so far. And now over to the AL, I think this is the most surprising team. The Guardians, 27-16 now. Josh Naylor, a huge breakout player for them, over 10 homers, 30-plus RBIs, and Steven Kwan right now hitting 353.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the type of baseball they play. They don't really hit for power outside of Naylor and Kwan hitting 350 and great glove in the outfield. He really brings a big piece to that lineup. And, with them, without Shane Bieber, who also got Tommy John this year, they've definitely been better than I expected. I thought they'd be down closer to the 500 range, but you could say it's because they're in a weak division that they're playing weak opponents. But Josh Naylor has definitely been a big piece to their winning success.
Yeah, that AL Central has been the weakest division the past few years, but it's been a good division so far this year. The Twins also coming off a huge winning streak. And the pitching for the Guardians has been top 10 in the league in ERA and WHIP, despite missing their number 1 starter. Other guys have stepped up for them. And now our last team in the AL East, I think a half game back for the lead of division, but they've been leading most of the year. Now 26-14 are the Baltimore Orioles, leading the league in homers. Just a huge slugging team, not as much in average, but when you hit more homers, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I mean, the Orioles, we kind of expected this year they'd really make that leap. They won 100 games last year, so they're really continuing that leap. And I think Gunnar Henderson has been just out of this world. He's so good, so talented, and it's exactly what the Orioles needed. And they have Jackson Holliday, who's got sent down, but he's right there, coming right back up, you'd think, in the summer. I mean, this team is really good. I think they'll be neck and neck with the Yankees all year, and I think it's great to see the Orioles really winning. They just got under new ownership. Got to think they'd invest well in the future, and I think they have one of the brightest futures in the league.
Yeah, also they brought over Corbin Burns, heading this team in the starting rotation, 5th in the league in ERA about, and 5th in WHIP also. And they just have such a young core, so many guys that are so young and already so great. And they're going to be good for the next, you could say, decade. could be winning several World Series, but they have to keep it going in the playoffs and prove themselves. And now we'll go to the struggling teams. We picked one from each league. First up in the AL have been the Astros, 17-25, 27th best team ERA at a 4.78 right now. Just have not been good pitching at all, but their offense has been very good so far. 6th best in team OPS with a 741, but they haven't been able to finish games with their top closer signed to a huge deal, 5.29 ERA for Josh Hader right now.
Yeah, you got to think that he'll be able to settle it down. We saw him with the Padres when he first came over there. He was really struggling and was eventually lights out. So, you got to think that he'll be able to figure it out. But I think the entire pitching staff needs to figure it out. I think, with a team 6th in OPS, you got Altuve, Bregman, Yordan Alvarez. I mean, they're just too good offensively to be 17-25 and 4th in the AL West. I think, I think they're bound to bounce back, crawl up to the 500 spot, but it's been such a bad start. It's really going to be tough to dig out of that hole.
Yeah, Kyle Tucker leading the league in homers. Altuve has been hitting very well, but Bregman has not been hitting well at all. Just coming off a 2-homer game, though, so maybe he could get hot also, but they need the pitching to improve. And now our last struggling team in the NL, the New York Mets. Both of us a fan of the team, 19-22 right now as we're recording this. 672 team OPS, 21st in the league, averaging 4.2 runs a game, and a team ERA of 3.72, which puts them in the 11th in the league. They just haven't been able to put it together, really. It's either the hitting's good, the pitching's bad, or the pitching's good and the hitting's bad. And really, it's been more pitching this year, though.
Yeah, I think the pitching's been pretty good for the most part. Manaea has been great. In the bullpen, Reed Garrett's been great. Diaz is struggling a little, but you kind of had to expect that coming off, out the year, blowing his knee out. But, I just think offensively they've just not been good enough. Lindor struggled. He's coming back, but he's struggled mightily in the beginning of the year. Beatty's now struggling. McNeil can't hit. Even P's kind of subpar season for him. Nobody's really exceeding the expectations besides Francisco Alvarez, who's been hurt for a few weeks now. It's just been really frustrating to watch because they just can't get runs.
Yeah, it's really that Nimmo's been playing well, but really that core of guys that have been there for several years now might have to be broken up as the young guys are also struggling, Beatty, and they just brought Vientos back up, see what he can do. But there's really a problem there, and I just don't think this team has enough to even make a run for the playoffs right now with the pitching and those guys in the core, Jeff McNeil. I think he might be done, even though coming off a batting title.
Yeah, I mean, when he signed the 4-year, $50 million extension, I thought it was a great deal, but, last year he was terrible, and this year he kind of looks even worse. He's not... I feel like he's trying to do too much. He hits very simple. He just has to put the ball in play, and I feel like he's just too far in his head, and all the confidence is gone.
Yeah, now we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we will talk about the top MVP and Cy Young candidates so far. So now we're back, and we're going to go over the MVP candidates first. We picked 2 in the NL, 2 in the AL again, and the 2 in the NL are actually on the same team, the Los Angeles Dodgers. Who would have thought? Shohei Ohtani, 361 average right now, over an 1,100 OPS, 12 homers, 30 RBIs. He has just been a beast, as expected.
Yeah, I mean, everybody kind of expected this. Ohtani, probably the best hitter in baseball, by far the best player in baseball, and he just can't stop. He was struggling a little for his standards in the first couple of games, but I mean, he just come off 3 for 5 against the Giants with bomb of a home run. He's just such a good player, and that was pretty much expected with the already stacked Dodgers lineup, and that's why they're first in the NL West.
And his teammate Mookie Betts, over an 1,000 OPS as well, 60 hits already on the year, and almost a 3.0 F4. He has just been a stud defensively and offensively, playing shortstop, second base, outfield, whatever it is, and also hitting the ball.
Yeah, I mean, he's looking like the 2018 Mookie Betts we saw with the Red Sox when he won the MVP. With him being able to play all those positions, that makes him so valuable because, shortstop is not an easy position. We saw him struggle a little, but he's really turned it around, and he's become a very solid defensive shortstop. And yeah, that just makes him 10 times more valuable than just being a right fielder like he used to be. And yeah, he's one of the best players in all of baseball.
And maybe a little bit surprising, we expected him to have a huge year, but he's still so young. He was a top prospect. Bobby Witt Jr., 875 OPS and playing a great shortstop, 8 defensive runs saved already, and 15 stolen bases. Really a 5-tool player the Royals have, and they've been playing great all season too.
Yeah, I mean, when they were able to lock him up to an 11-year contract, that was an incredible deal. He's the definition of a 5-tool player. I mean, he can pretty much do everything he wants. And, even though his hitting isn't 1,000 OPS, whatever, he's probably the best defensive shortstop in the league. He steals a ton of bases. He can do everything you want. And he's just so good. And he's probably I would say right now, probably the best shortstop in baseball, with Corey Seager struggling a little this year. I think Bobby Witt's probably the best shortstop in baseball.
And now coming over to the Bronx, he hasn't skipped a step. Juan Soto, almost a 950 OPS, 9 homers, 34 RBIs, and his usual over 400 on-base percentage. He has just been huge for the Yankees, with Judge struggling in most of the year now, picking it up back a little bit, but he really has been the MVP for that team so far.
Yeah, I mean, I love Soto. He hits the ball everywhere in the strike zone, gets on base, and I don't think he's leaving the Yankees. I think he's too good of a player for the Yankees to just let up. People say how the Yankees at times can be cheap, but when they really need to spend the money, they'll spend the money. We saw with Cole and Judge, they'll easily splash $300 million. They'll definitely need to splash more for Soto, but I doubt they'll just let him walk. Especially if I want him to go to the Mets, but I just don't see the Yankees letting that happen.
Yeah, he's still so young, but has also been so good for several years now. And now over to the pitching side of things. Cy Young, maybe the best signing of free agency. Shota Imanaga, 5-0, under a 1 ERA, under a 1 WHIP. He has just been a stud for the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah, I mean, everybody was talking about Yamamoto going to the Dodgers. People were expecting him to be, that Rookie of the Year candidate, maybe even MVP candidate, Cy Young candidate. But, I mean, Imanaga has just been on another level. And his ERA would be even lower if, Counsell didn't send him to the 8th inning where he gave up the 2-run home run to the Padres. But, he's just been so good. Doesn't give up any runs, doesn't walk anybody, doesn't give up hard contact. He's definitely the front runner of Cy Young right now.
Yeah, and also in the NL, we mentioned him a little bit earlier, Ranger Suarez for the Phillies, 7-0 record right now, 1.5 ERA, .72 WHIP, not allowing really any hits or walks per inning, less than 1. And not allowing any runs either. Yeah,
I feel like he's really putting it all together this year. We saw glimpses of him in the past few years where he could really be that starter, and then we saw him struggle. But, he's been the key reason why the Phillies are off to their phenomenal start. He's been by far the best pitcher on the Phillies in a very good rotation. So to put him with Nola and Wheeler, that's a really good trio you have in the starting rotation.
And now over to the AL, Seth Lugo. He leaves the Mets, gets his starting opportunity that he has been waiting for years, and he's now 6-1, 1.66 ERA, .96 WHIP. He has just been great for the Royals, and it's shown as the Royals have a good record, as I said earlier.
Yeah, I mean, Lugo, he always, like you said, he always wanted that starting pitching role, and, he finally gets in. He's really thriving under it. I mean, his fastball is great. His curveball is electric, has one of the nastiest curveballs in the league. And, yeah, he's been a big reason why the Royals have been, with their starting pitching, have been pretty good this year.
And lastly, our AL candidate, he was good last year, missed a portion of the year, but nobody saw this coming for the Tigers. Hit their ace right now, Tariq Skubal, 5-0, about a 2 ERA, and a .86 WHIP so far.
Yeah, I mean, last year, he pitched half the season, had a pretty solid year, but this year he's just brought it to another level. He's been untouchable for the Tigers, and they really needed that. People didn't really know how well the Tigers pitching would be, but he's just been a godsend for them.
Yeah, he has been great all year, but that's going to do it for this week's episode of The Final Whistle. Next week, we will head back to the NBA and NHL playoffs as the conference finals will be commencing. Thanks for watching.